Okay, here's my audience. And yeah, so this is my outline. Just pulled up. All right, hello everyone. Today I will be talking about Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a civil rights activist. He had a wife and 3 kids. His wife was named Coretta Scott King, and she was also a civil rights activist. He was a very smart man who passed his college test when he was 15. He was also a pastor, and he had a degree in psychology. And it came in handy when he started talking about his movements and doing his speeches and everything. And he was also around the age of 30 when he started his movements. So, you may ask, what did Martin Luther King Jr. do? He was a leader and advocate for equality of African Americans, and he was the head of the civil rights movement in America. He ran nonviolent protests, which could involve riots, speeches, and marches. And during these, they would basically demand for the rights of African Americans and for things to be equal. One of the first things that had happened to him during his career was his home was bombed. All of his children were inside, and his wife and himself. But nobody got hurt. They all made it out okay. So, moving on to one of our second biggest points was King was shown in the Times Magazine for his protest and the different things that he was doing for the African American community. His first speech was held at the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., and it was called Give Us the Ballot. And he talked about his people getting the ballot and what they will do for that. What are you guys laughing at? Okay. He and other civil rights leaders met with the President Eisenhower, and they had basically discussed the things that they would do and the impacts that they would make on African Americans with civil rights and equality, because at this time was when there was separate bathrooms, people couldn't do the water fountains, African Americans wouldn't get jobs, and basically they were not equal to the white people. So after his meeting with Eisenhower and his first speech, he was stabbed with a letter opener during his first book signing. The woman was mentally ill, but it does not cover for the fact that she stabbed him, and he had to get a very long, the whole thing was basically inside of him, and he had to get it surgically removed. So after that happened, he ended up moving to Atlanta to focus on the movement and get the word out in the South so that it would be spread. And after he moved, he got arrested for the first time during one of his, I believe it was one of his marches. Oh, nope, it was one of his sit-ins, sorry. The sit-in was a non-violent thing, so basically they just sat there and did as they did during the marches and the protests. They just demanded for the rights. And over $2,000 bond for him to get out for just sitting somewhere and asking to be treated equally. I'm so bad at this. Then he was arrested again. This time it was for a march, and over 100 others went with him. And he ended up spending 2 weeks in jail, and he was beaten while he was there by the racist Americans that had their own group. What is the time? 4 minutes. Okay, perfect. Okay. King was named Man of the Year by Time Magazine, and that same year also won a Nobel Peace Prize. After those, he continued to make a great impact on the lives of people that were not getting treated civilly. And there were more marches, and people continued to be beaten and taken to jail. So it would basically be a protest, a march, jail, and then it would be repeated. And every time they went to jail, he would be beaten. But he still chose to be peaceful and continue on. Then King delivered his first speech in the Vietnam War, and he basically pleaded thing.